Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Find God outside. Hey, everybody. Joe Simons. Like diamonds, back again. Salt Strong, Unchurched. Just got done from walking outside. And so if you are listening to this early Sunday morning, there are many of these that I do pre-record, FYI. So this is actually on a Wednesday afternoon that I'm recording this. And there's just been a lot of things on my heart with just business and family, kids getting back in school, and Shauna, in particular, starting high school and having a tough time. There's a lot of stuff. And uncle with, 3 different types of cancer now, just found out. And, and Daniel, my brother, having some issues and now has a kind of catheter maybe in for the rest of his life. And just seems like a lot. If you've ever been through a time like that, where just kind of a lot hitting you all at once, I got just a ton of prayer requests and a ton of just stuff feeling like it's falling back on me. And so a lot of times I go outside, and this afternoon, just a little while ago, I went down to my dock, which is kind of my little sanctuary. It's a place that I go talk to God. It's quiet, especially during the week. There's not that many boats out there. And I went down, I was praying on something specific that I won't share on this podcast, but I was praying on something very specific, and I have my eyes closed and I'm in the shade, and I open my eyes up. I take about 3 steps out of the shade. We have a little kind of a sun deck at the end of the dock, and I look up, and no lie, bald eagle. And I've talked about this before. I get goosebumps talking about it, all the different times where I've been praying about something specific. And I'm not necessarily challenging God to show me a sign. There was one time I did about getting married when that deer popped out while I was on the hiking trail. But in general, I feel like these signs happen with these different animals. And for me, a lot of times it has been a deer. Sometimes it's like hawks. It's been bald eagles. This time it was a bald eagle. And I felt this just sense of peace. And it's really neat. It kind of hung around for a while and then just kind of darted off and was off into the clouds where I couldn't see it anymore. Just, I don't know, it's so wild how God works. And I found that so many of my best conversations where I'm finding God have been outside. So I love going to the farmhouse that my in-laws have there in Georgia. I have just some of the best conversations, and I come away just feeling so refreshed that God is with me and God is with you. And I feel like maybe part of the reason our society doesn't feel like God is with them in general. I know, obviously, listening to this, then you're probably a believer in God and maybe a believer in Jesus. But in general, it seems like our society is against God right now, and maybe revolting a little bit, and wants nothing to do with God or religion or whatever it might be. And maybe, just maybe, it could be because we spend so much time in a box inside, right? I mean, more than any other point in this world, we are spending way more time inside. I mean, think about people just 80 years ago, not to mention thousands of years ago when Jesus was walking this earth, where there wasn't air conditioning. I mean, most people were out doing things with their hands, right? But even 80, 90, 100 years ago, most people were outside. You had people who were doing a lot of farm and a lot of labor. I mean, people were outside. There was farmers, and there were people working with cows and horses and animals. And I mean, most of the things were happening outside, not inside on a computer in front of a desk. That's all obviously a very new thing. And so I got this email, very timely as well, from a guy named Ryan Levesque. I've been following him for a long time. He's written quite a few books, and he ended up buying a property for him and his family up in Vermont, I believe it is. I don't remember how many acres, but it's a pretty large little farm, just to get away from this hustle and bustle, because he studied this so much. And here's what he said. I'm just going to read from his little newsletter, where he's talking about how he believes this AI is really exciting, and he's partaking in it. He's like, AI can literally help us. It can change the world. But at the same point, he's like, my fear is all of this is going to take us so far away from the earth, like so far away from getting outside, from talking to God, to having those experiences like I did with the bald eagle. And he says, according to a Harvard study tracking over 100,000 individuals, people living in concrete-heavy, low-green environments were 12% more likely to die early than those surrounded by nature. And in a comprehensive Danish study, children raised with limited access to daily nature were 55% more likely to suffer from depression, substance abuse, and other psychiatric disorders later in life. I'm going to read that again. Children raised with limited access to daily nature, like going outside daily for more than just a few minutes, were 55% more likely, not 5%, 55% more likely to suffer from depression, substance abuse, and other psychiatric disorders later in life. In other words, taking us out of nature, like keeping us inside classrooms, offices, whatever it is, taking us outside of our nature is literally making us sick and depressed. While at the same time, returning to nature has a remarkable healing effect. In fact, the Japanese practice of forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, walking slowly in a forest, just unplugged, mindfully engages all five senses. It has been demonstrated just going out there, walking slowly in a forest, it has actually been demonstrated and proven to lower cortisol, reduce blood pressure, boost immune function, and even elevate anti-cancer proteins just after a few days in the woods. That is crazy. It goes on. But one of the most overlooked benefits of nature, being outside, is the strategic advantage it gives us in terms of how much it improves our creativity and problem-solving capabilities. He talks about some things that all were invented when someone was outside. Velcro, the wetsuit, the bullet train, the wind turbine, sonar, radar, self-cleaning glass. What do they all have in common? Each of these world-changing inventions was born in the wild. Velcro was inspired by burdock burrs clinging to the fur of inventor George de Mistral's dog back in 1940. The bullet train, designed in Japan, is based on the kingfisher's streamlined beak. It's a bird. Wind turbine blades have bumpy tubercles, just like those of a humpback whale's fins, because they've been found to counterintuitively increase lift and reduce drag by as much as 30%. It looks just like these whales, these humpback whale fins. Really, really wild. Wetsuits, like Speedo's fat skin suits, have dermal denticles, tiny little rib scales based off of shark skin. They're so effective that they have been banned from the Olympics. Sonar and radar came from studying dolphins and bats. And the lotus leaf microstructure and its ability to repel water and dirt is what gives us these super hydrophobic surfaces on self-cleaning windows, fabrics, solar panels, etc. And guys, all of this happened from people studying the stuff in nature, things that were outside. I just thought that was so fascinating. And I look back on my own life and how much the outdoors is meant to me. Obviously, we have a fishing company, and I really believe in that. And how many people I've heard from, especially a lot of veterans and people who've been through some just bad stuff and seen some crazy wartime stuff, how much healing power just being outside, whether if you're on the water or not. Obviously, I like being on the water, being around it. But even when I'm hiking out there, I seem to get some of the best ideas. Even my brother Luke right now, as I'm recording this, he's up in the Blue Ridge Mountains for a similar reason. He loves just going up there, he and his wife and his new daughter, just getting away from for a week. And he always comes back with his best ideas. Like, man, this hit me when I was just walking through the woods. Can't understand it. Can't, tell you exactly why or how that happens. But there is something wild about God wanting us to be outside, wanting us to be in nature and not stuck inside of a house all day. So I'm going to keep this one short for a reason. I want you to get outside. Maybe you're hopefully listening to this walking outside or doing something outside, but that is my challenge. It's a pretty simple one. There is so much evidence that all of the best breakthroughs, not all the best, the majority of best breakthroughs and some of the best conversations you'll ever have with God, and that just feeling that he is there with you, all seem to happen when people are outside. And I've heard from so many of you who have written from listening to this podcast where I talk about the deer showing up and some of the animals that have showed up when I was in a really, really deep prayer. I don't know. I get goosebumps. And my friend Don sent me a really interesting video I'll talk about in a future episode about our souls and how that interacts with the rest of the space around us and animals and stuff. Just fascinating stuff. So anyhow, that is my challenge for the week. I hope this was helpful. Hope it was timely. Maybe if you're hearing this, like, man, I've been spending way too much inside. I haven't gone fishing in a while. I hear that from a lot of people. Even when I go to these chapter meetings, I hear people like, man, when was the last time you fished? And it's not good when you have to think about it, right? And maybe that's you. And when was the last time you fished? If you can't remember and you have to think and you're going by, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months or whatever it is, man, this is the time. Put it on your calendar, just like you would anything else that's important. This is clearly important. I mean, the fact that these kids were having a 50% increase in depression and substance abuse and psychological things, psychiatric things from not being outside. How much more proof do we need? That is where we go to find God. Love you guys. I'd love any feedback on this one or any podcast. If there's anything that you want me to talk about in the future or confidential prayer requests, let me know. Joe@saltstrong.com. That is my email address. I appreciate you. Love you. And I'll talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.